Welcome to the Real Freedom Podcast, where we inspire you to pursue your passion to gain time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. Let's get some real freedom together. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Real Freedom Show, talking about how we can build time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. What I really love sharing is how we can grow through the help of others. I really believe there was a saying that kind of stuck with me about 15 years ago, and it's, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so how I've built and grown businesses is by aligning with other people that want to work with me and help me, and where we see common ground where we can really help each other. And so anybody that's building something significant in the real estate space is going to need some great support, some great operation systems, some great admin support. And so that's going to be the focus of what we're talking about today. And we've got Staci Gray with Organized to Scale. So Organized to Scale aligns with mission-driven leaders to develop strategic initiatives, provide operational disciplines, and streamline day-to-day execution for maximizing results. She works and specializes in the real estate space, things from new construction, property management, syndicators, marketing and promotional work, all those different things, which we'll get into how you can help people. You really do need great admin and operations support to grow your business. And so it's something that, me having a background in operations admin, I feel that, and I totally believe that. And that's why I like highlighting folks that do that on our real estate podcast, because without these folks, we're not going to grow and we're not going to have good systems. So welcome, Staci, to the show. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you, Mike. That was an awesome intro, and I'm excited to chat systems, operations, execution, visionary, integrator, all the good stuff.
Take us through what you did previous to this and how that rolled into building Organized to Scale.
Yeah, I can share my life story.
Sure.
Actually, my father is a very successful entrepreneur, real estate investor, and he has the co-host of the Real Estate Guys radio show. And when I graduated high school at 16, he did not want me to go off to college. So he asked me to come work for him, answering phones for the seminars that he was doing for real estate investors. So I was answering the phones, doing that. And within probably 6 months, I was like, I don't want to answer the phones anymore. So I think one of the best books that he gave me was a copy of E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And he handed me that book and said, you don't have to answer phones, but you have to document and create a registration coordinator handbook and hire and train your replacement. And that was really the start of what would later become Organized to Scale. But it really taught me the power of operational disciplines and systems and predictable execution. And then that transcended to us creating a bunch of infrastructure and systems within there. I ended up buying my first property when I was 18 years old. So I didn't end up going back to college because investing turned out to be a little bit more lucrative. And over the years, I've made a lot of money, lost a lot of money, learned a lot. I think some of the best lessons have come in the challenging times. And then about maybe 7-8 years ago, my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And my father, I had already handed the business back to him, and he found himself really wanting a much more time freedom, still very much in the business. And he asked me to come run the family businesses for him again. And I did. And we have a community of folks in our family businesses that are real estate investors, capital raisers, construction, all of those types of things. And they really saw the systems that we had implemented, how it was able to help our family businesses scale and become more profitable, even during one of the most challenging times in our lives. And in December of 2019, unfortunately, my mom passed away and joined the angels up in heaven. And then in March of 2020, we decided that other folks were really eager to have us help them systematize their operations. And so we started helping other folks do that. And that was kind of the journey into organizing businesses to scale, specifically within the real estate space.
You specifically mentioned time freedom. And I know for me, starting Real Freedom, I always said focus on time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I think we tend to focus on the financial freedom side, and we don't always spend as much time talking about the time freedom side. And that really is a huge gift, and through leverage, time freedom will equal financial freedom. But that's the huge gift that you give people is, I always told people on my real estate team, the goal was, to do more of what you love and less of what you don't love. And for a lot of people that are in sales, they're maybe not wired to like these systems and processes and all that.
Yeah.
And so not only do you get to partner with people that love doing that stuff, but they're in their gifting and you're in your gifting. I know offline we had talked a lot about kind of personality assessments and understanding who you are and what you need to kind of fulfill that. Talk about that fit for a little and how that can really benefit people when they're working in their sweet spots.
Sure. Yeah. So one of our passions is to really help mission-driven leaders build businesses they own that don't own them. And a lot of entrepreneurs set out to build businesses to create freedom, but then end up trapped in the very businesses designed to create their freedom. And that happens for one of two reasons. One is we just don't have the systems in place. So there's operational chaos and we're going so fast. Being that high D personality, like we were talking about offline, the DISC personality we use, and it really advertises how much somebody is wired to be driven and demanding and ambitious versus they're interpersonal and they like people and influence and talking, or they're more empathetic and a stabilizing force, or there's somebody who's a little bit more analytical and cautious and want to analyze everything. But the other way people get trapped in their businesses is the operational chaos, but their passion. When you're a high D entrepreneur, you're so passionate about what you do and you want to go so fast. And sometimes if you don't have an operational system that is methodical and disciplined, you can actually become trapped by your own energy around something. So understanding our natural wiring and what our individual sweet spots are within our organization and putting team parameters and structural parameters to prevent us from not having the time freedom we're seeking or the financial freedom we're seeking because of our own internal demons that we're not aware of.
Just thinking about examples of this that I've encountered is working with a high D personality and like, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this. And then I come back with 2 or 3 clarifying questions because naturally my head thinks like, well, how do we implement that? Yeah. And sometimes the answer we would get is, oh, I hadn't thought about that, right? And that's just naturally how that works. And so for people that do like to push the pedal to the metal, sometimes there's, kind of chasing shiny pennies, which is great. And you need people that have those new ideas and creatively implement it. And then you've got that person that can come alongside and say, okay, how do we organize this chaos a little bit, put some systems and some predictable results in place?
Yes, we call those 2 roles. It's from the EOS Entrepreneurial Operating System, Traction, Rocket Fuel, Visionary, and Integrator. So the idea person is usually the person who is high D driven, fast paced, and they have a million ideas chasing 2, 3, 10 rabbits at the same time, feeling like they're not really getting any traction. And then you have the integrator, who's the person who is able to systematize, take an idea, put it into execution plans, and make real little yellow feet to make it happen. Oftentimes the visionary can see the front of the puzzle box, but then when you take that puzzle box out and all the pieces are everywhere, the visionary is like, I'm out. Like, that is way too many details, but that's where a real integrator, a systems-minded person can come in and really thrive.
Yeah, and there's a ton of value there. Like I know, going back to my, when I was the integrator, I love to talk in the weeds because I needed clarity sometimes, but I also know that the visionary's eyes glaze over when you start to talk details. And so it's finding that balance. And you had mentioned, the book Rocket Fuel. If you want your business to grow, that dynamic is what's really helpful for people. You need that visionary personality mixed with the integrator personality. And the book is about, like, they studied top businesses that grew really quickly. And that was kind of the secret sauce, is having that visionary and having that integrator that can work well together. And within that, there can be tension, but it's the beauty of that relationship that helps things grow well.
Yes, there's often tension between the visionary and integrator relationship because the visionary is externally focused and motivated by driving revenue and building the brand, and the integrator is internally focused, driving operational efficiency and quality, and they sometimes are in conflict with each other. one of the things that we do at Organize to Scale is a 3-step process that really helps align visionary and integrators together. And it's architect, build, operate. So what we experience in our businesses, and this, everything that we've developed is from our own trial and errors. So we would have this idea to start a business, or we're going to do this deal and we're going to raise all this capital. And then it's like, okay, well, we need a pitch deck and we need a one-pager and we need an investor portal, and we need a website. And we would just start playing whack-a-mole in the business. Like, okay, you go do this or you go do that. And it was just madness and chaos. So what we started doing was now architecting the business. And we do that in a 3-day planning session. And the architect phase is, okay, what are we actually building? Is this a lifestyle business? Is this a huge business? What is your sweet spot within the organization? So every leadership person, every team member, every founder, what's your sweet spot? What do we really want to do? Where do we want to be in 10 years? And what's everything that needs to be done in order to achieve that? And then what are we going to execute in the next 90 days? And then we take that and turn and build the essential infrastructure. So step 2 is building it. You may need an investor portal, you may need a website, but it's actually coming from a place of, we thought this all the way through. We understand our brand, we understand our voice, we understand our messaging, we understand our positioning, we understand our ideal investors, and we're able to create a framework and an infrastructure to really attract that kind of avatar into our community and build the type of tribe of investors and deals we're looking for. And then once that's built, then it goes into operate, which is the 3rd phase, where you just have the recurring activities that you do to maintain the business. And then when you go decide to do a new deal, you go back to build and have another planning session to make sure everyone's aligned and can execute in a predictable fashion instead of it getting out of control.
Thinking about, what we know about kind of those visionaries, to sit down and slow down for that long of a period of time can feel like nails on a chalkboard for them to think about. I've got to talk about this stuff. Like, I just want to go.
Yes. So what I can completely relate. A lot of people feel that way. And usually by the time they get to the place where they're coming to somebody like me, they are at their wits' end. They're like, I can't keep operating like this. I'm going to start, my reputation is going to get hurt. I'm going to drop balls. They're ready for a way of operating differently. And oftentimes their team is very ready for them to operate differently. And so out of that place, they're much more receptive. And then also it's a guided process. So they're not abandoned to go try to figure it out on their own. It's a collaborative process where they really understand that this is the foundation, just like you're building a house. You would go, if you're doing ground up development, you don't just go lay a foundation somewhere. That's not the first thing you do. You go and you do your due diligence on a marketplace. You do your due diligence on a piece of land. You come up with a blueprint for how you're going to construct that building. And then you take it to a contractor and a construction crew to build it. And then you put a property management in place and tenants in place to maintain and run it. Yet we don't do that in business, but business is very much the same way as what you see that's tangible out there in real estate, but we often don't want to slow down enough to do it. What I have found with visionaries, and you and I could probably relate to this because we're both visionary integrators, is visionaries are driven by 3 things. They want to drive revenue. They want to protect their brand or build their brand and build their community. And they want to drive operational efficiency and quality. They're motivated by those 3 things. If a system can provide that to them and give them a path where they can do the thing that they want to do, which is drive revenue, they're going to be much more receptive to it. And earlier, you and I were talking about how the tension between visionary and integrators, where the visionary comes, I got this idea, go execute it. And then you start asking clarifying questions. And sometimes they're like, oh, I didn't think about it. Or sometimes they're like, you're poking holes in my idea. And what I have learned is when I say, this is a great idea, I want to help you execute it, can I ask a couple of clarifying questions to make sure I get it down to the dotting my I's, crossing my T's, that it represents what you want? And you've only got to do that for 3 days with me. And then once you do that, you're good. They're like, okay, yes, I'll tell you everything, because it helps them achieve what they want to achieve.
Yeah, two things that you had mentioned that I want to chat about. One is you mentioned about, people usually being at their wits' end before they get to you. I do want to talk about that. But then the other piece is, one of the analogies that I used when I was in that integrator role is, it's kind of like the wind-up toy. You just have to wind me up and point me in the right direction, and then I can go. And so it is that period of, it's not that, because we were viewed as kind of the pessimist people or the negative Nancy's, because we are poking holes, but it's us asking for clarification. And so the way that I always described it is, if you can wind me up, the little wind up toy, set me down and point me to the finish line. I love being able to run as fast as I can, put those systems in place, but I just need to make sure I'm going in the right direction. Because if you're wanting me to go, I use the example of, if you were flying from New York to Los Angeles, and I believe if you're off, it's like 1 degree at the beginning of your flight, you end up in Seattle. So the difference between being aligned or not aligned is the difference between ending up in Seattle or Los Angeles. So we just need to clarify that first, so we know where that end target is.
Yes. And oftentimes visionaries, you and I have been both, so I can relate to the visionary in so many ways. We think about it all the time. We're thinking about it while we're driving. We're thinking about it when we're going to bed. We're talking about it with our spouses. We're talking about it with our mastermind groups. We're thinking about it in the shower. And then we have a 1-hour meeting with somebody, and we expect them to get the vision as clear as we see it in our head. And they're not. It's going to take time. And there is an element of patience that is required in order to really build a solid foundation to scale. And those are all growth areas. When it's human nature, we're all wired uniquely. We have our strengths and we have our challenges. And as a high D visionary, one of the challenges is that we can be very impatient. And then one of the challenges as an integrator, one that is really analytical, is we want everything to be perfect. And that's one of our demons on that side. And I think when we just normalize those demons, have conversations about it, and put communication and systems in place to safeguard against it, you can really still scale your business with an enjoyable process.
So then, to kind of go to the wits end piece that I had talked about before, having seen now, what I've seen on the operational side is residential real estate teams. But for people in the public, they might see, so-and-so successful real estate agent, or in your case, syndicators and other people. A lot of times behind the scenes, it is a complete nightmare. There's so much that's not good. And it might be, I've hired somebody, they did some stuff and then they left. And then we got to start over again. And I hired somebody, they did some stuff and then they left. Or, we didn't get along well, or this or that or the other. And like you said, then they come to this spot where it's like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So finally they come to you and they're like, I don't want this hamster wheel to keep going. I need to change something, and I need to align with somebody else to be able to get me to that next plateau of where I need to go.
All of that is so true. And there's two parts of it, right? You can have the best system in the world, like a diet. Everybody knows what to do to lose weight. But if the person in control of implementing it isn't disciplined, isn't structured, then the best diet or the best system in the world won't work. So there's growth areas on both sides. There's growth for the visionary and the leadership team, and then there's growth for the systems, and they have to scale together. And the last 3 years really have been challenging with staffing and teams and different things. So if anyone's out there in a state where they feel like, I feel like that, like my business is a mess, I feel like I have a revolving door of people, I can't get the structure in place. A lot of people are going through that right now. And there's a way to systematize it. Sometimes it requires slowing down to go faster, which is one of the growth areas for us visionaries, but it's very doable. And it's not a lost cause, and putting more pressure on a faulty infrastructure or a poor system will only hurt in the long run. And tying it back to real estate, which is kind of the audience, I was with Ken McElroy, the Rich Dad advisor for Robert Kiyosaki, at an event recently, and he was talking about how he's a super syndicator, a massive successful capital raiser syndicator, and he was talking about he's still looking for deals, but he is focusing more on his operations right now, so that when the market gets to a place where there's a lot of things on sale, he's in a position to move quickly. And so I think that's always a good lesson for all of us other entrepreneurs, capital raisers, syndicators, real estate folks who are in a place where maybe our operational systems are a little bit chaotic. Right now, we have an opportunity. The market is giving us an opportunity to slow down, get the structure in place so that when 6, 12, 18 months, deals start popping up, you can move quickly.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, helping people to understand that the systems that work at a certain level of your business aren't going to necessarily be the systems that work at the next level of your business. And so I'd mentioned plateau before, thinking it through, we hit a plateau, we grow and we push through, then we're going to hit another plateau. Like that's how business works. And I know for me, thinking about which systems I'm going to implement or which technologies I'm going to use, I don't necessarily need to pay for the technology or the system right now that's going to be 10 steps ahead. I get it. We may need that down the road, or the person that you heard or the other syndicator is using that tool and it's costing $500 a month or $1,000 a month. Well, I don't need that today.
Right.
One of the greatest questions I get with people at the, starting out is talking about database, right? There's a lot of great databases out there. You don't have to pay for a Ferrari to go get groceries. You just need a grocery cart to go get groceries. And so I always tell people a good spreadsheet at the beginning could be a starting point. You're moving from what's in my phone as my database to putting a spreadsheet together, collecting phone numbers and emails. I don't have to pay for the Ferrari database right now. I just need the one that I'm actually going to use.
Yes, I 100% agree with that. And I will add a little bit deeper. But how you set up your spreadsheet could set you up for success when you're moving into that next phase, because a lot of people put like their name as the one column, but you can't import that into a system.
Good point. Yes.
First name, last name separated. So there's a lot of things that we do with folks just like that. And I was actually on a call earlier today with one of our brands saying that, hey, we need to do your spreadsheet like this, but you don't need an investment portal right now. You just need a spreadsheet. However, the spreadsheet has to be set up a certain way to make it scalable for when we are ready to convert to the next tool. And it's hitting a ceiling, reevaluating your infrastructure, your systems, your team, your workflows, your assembly lines, up-leveling them, testing them, and then putting pressure on that structure and continuing to do that until you hit your 10-year, 20-year BHAG that you're shooting for.
So what would be some things, if I'm doing something in the real estate space right now, and it's like, because I'm maybe an integrator, I'm not an operations minded person, and I'm thinking like, how could something like this help me? What are some ideas of ways that you're helping your clients? Like I get you do the full evaluation, but like, what are some ways that we can kind of just think about getting started with somebody like you, or with, some other admin or operations tool to be able to get some of that time freedom back?
Yeah. Are you talking to the integrator or the visionary?
The visionary. Yeah. So if I'm thinking like, okay, things aren't great right now, maybe I'm not at my breaking point, but I'm looking to scale. Like, what are some ways that you could walk in and help somebody in the real estate industry to give them some structure and some organization?
Yeah. So I think understanding yourself first. So what is your sweet spot within your organization? So do you want to be the brand ambassador, salesperson, deal junkie? Or usually that's the visionary role. They're super excited about those things. And what they don't like is setting up the CRM, prepping email communications, calendaring items, the back office stuff. And so I think getting really clear on the skills inventory of the team you have. So what are your skills as a visionary? And then what are your skills on the team? And then putting the right people on the right problems in the business could help tremendously. And then depending on the size of your scale, integrators come in all different shapes and sizes. An integrator like Steve Jobs integrator is a different kind of integrator than somebody who is building a 2-person, 5-person operation. And if you're in a 2-person, 5-person, 10-person operation, you may have an integrator that more looks like a project manager or an operations coordinator, operations manager, not somebody that maybe necessarily has to understand deal vetting or running P&Ls and tax strategy, whereas a higher level integrator may understand those things. So really narrowing it down to what is the current state of your business and what are your next 3 to 5 moves. So if you're playing chess and your business was a chessboard, you're going to line up your chess pieces and see what do I got on the board and what moves can these folks make. And then to help me win, to get to where I want to go, conquer my opposing king or take down this deal, what would be my next 3 to 5 moves to set up my chessboard to help me win in that way? I think visionaries can think like that as chess players.
And I will add too, the way that we were introduced is because a few of the podcast guests that I've had on over the last 3 to 6 months have been using you. And so when I would have these, these bookings come through and I see organized to scale. And so I was like, oh, great. And so these were people that were all kind of in the real estate syndication space, but they're leveraging you guys to help build and grow their brand and get their name out there, and which is ultimately then going to help with capital raising and that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yes. A lot of folks, especially in the capital raising world, want to wait to have a deal to build their brand. And you can start building your brand right away, even if you don't have a deal, because you can start sharing the way you think. People are investing with you, not just for the ROI. They're investing with you because they trust you to be a good steward of their money and produce an ROI. But if you can start saying, hey, I'm investing in these types of markets and I'm looking for these types of returns and I'm implementing these types of tax strategies and I'm passing on these types of deals because there was this yellow flag, you're going to start building trust with that investor base so that when you do have a deal and you present it to them, they're going to be much more inclined to say yes, have a phone conversation with you and get that deal funded faster for you.
So you mentioned, you've got the 3-step plan. What are some other ways that people can work with you?
So we do architect, build, operate. We also do coaching for integrators and visionaries. So we're working on some courses to help with that in specific spaces. And then if they want to just connect with us, they can send an email to scale@organizedtoscale.com. And there I have a free report, kind of the 4 steps for organizing your business to scale. We do a 3-day workshop where people can come in and understand the systems for specifically a capital raising business, so a syndication business. We don't have a 3-day workshop yet for all of the different verticals like a construction company. During the 3-day, what we do is we process map the workflows of the 7 to 10 core functions that you're interested in. And in a syndication business, it's very tailored. So we walk through how to build your brand and network, how to acquire and onboard investors, how to communicate with active investors, how to acquire and manage deals, how to do financial management reporting, how to build and lead a team, and risk management is kind of interlaced through all of that. So that's another way people can connect with us. And then we have a disc review that we do with folks as well for visionaries and integrators to help them develop as the visionary and integrator that they need to be within their organization. So those are kind of 3 different ways people can connect with us. And if they send an email to scale@organizedtoscale.com, they can get access to all of those resources.
Yeah. And for somebody, that loves doing personality assessments, they really are important. If people haven't done them before, or maybe it's been a while since you've done them, it really helps people to understand yourself and to know maybe where there's some blind spots, maybe to even see how your relationship with coworkers. So like if you have a team, having everybody do this. I know, when we did a StrengthsFinders assessment, one of the things we did as a takeaway is everybody put their top 5 on their office door. And so when you're walking in and talking to these coworkers, now you're like, oh, that makes sense. And when you would hear people share what their top strengths were, you're like, oh, well, that's why we kind of butted heads a few times, or that's why every time I talk to them, they always think about it in this way. It's because that's just how they're wired. And so I can't speak enough for personality assessments, for understanding yourself and understanding the people that you're working with.
Yes, we call it calling out the pink elephant in the room. Like we have these unspoken communications with each other all the time because we're like, they're not thinking how I'm thinking. They're making a decision I wouldn't make. And it's because we're all wired differently. And when we have that clarity and able to have a conversation about it, and it not be right or wrong, bad or good, collaboration can really increase. And when collaboration increases, productivity increases. And from a visionary perspective, that usually means driving revenue, increasing operational efficiency, and building the brand, which is a win for everybody.
Have you ever heard the phrase, you're the average of the top 5 people that you hang around? Well, real estate agents, I'm excited to increase your 5 with you. We're launching the Real Freedom Investor Agent Tribe to help you get educated and connect with others to build your real estate investing journey, and also to help you along the way as you're working with real estate investors. So come check it out on our website, realfreedom.com. Go to the store. We have a membership, we have a mastermind group, and private coaching to help you stay accountable to your real estate investing goals and to make sure that you connect with like-minded people to accelerate your progress and to cheer you on along the way. Check it out, realfreedom.com. Click on the store. Awesome. Well, thank you, Staci, for coming on. I know we could chat about this all day, but I really appreciate all the wisdom that you shared. And yeah, for people out there that are stuck, for people out there looking to get to the next level, for people out there just kind of wondering what is my next step, you definitely are a great person to talk to.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed our conversation and all that you're doing.